Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 6 of the Money Down Pod. I am your host, Kayvon and Shawn. Thank you all for coming along with my guy, Shawn White here. This is the Money Down Pod. This is the Monday review week. What was that? Week 8 of the NFL, week 9 of college football. A lot of stuff going on, man. I mean, the NFL is jam packed, not just with the games, but what is going on before the trade deadline, some injury news. Shawn, before we go into all of that, talk to us on how things are going with Spotify and where the podcast is at and all of that.
Well, we've got it submitted. They should be giving approval here soon to get an upload. If not, they'll give me whatever, like one or two tiny tweaks I need for it. So this should be uploaded to Spotify and Apple iTunes later this week. And once we get the links for those channels, I'll be putting it up on the Twitter. I'll probably share it on my Twitter as well. Kayvon might be doing that too.
Yeah.
So we'll have plenty of spots for you to click the links to get to those certain podcast channels. And we'll look to get iTunes. iTunes does a good job of sending the pod out to different people. So hopefully we start rolling in with some new people seeing the content. Maybe they'll like it, give us some feedback. We'll start getting it rolling. I know all of the YouTube families out there, I'll liking, disliking, watching, reacting. That's what matters. We got to get the reactions going. So it's good. We're just going to keep grinding this out, and we'll keep going with the viewers and everything.
Yeah, no doubt. Shawn's really working hard on that, and I appreciate that a ton, Shawn. And I know all of our listeners, even though they're not a lot yet, but all of our listeners appreciate that too. And like Shawn said, look, whether the reaction is positive or negative, we don't care. Just bring it on. Like, bring it on. If you don't like what we're saying and you want to debate it, I promise you we will bring it up on the show. You just got to tell us what you don't like and what your points are, and we will debate it here for a good while. If you like what we're talking about, also let us know, and we will talk about that in further depth of what you want us to talk about. We're all for it. We are here we're doing this to put ourselves out there, and we're all good with any type of interaction, good or bad. Bring it on. So follow us on YouTube right now. You can find every single show on YouTube. So if you want to go back and listen to some shows, we've talked about a lot of your teams out there. Just type in Money Down Pod on YouTube. You can find it on Twitter as well at Money Down Pod. And then just like Shawn said, very soon, by next week, it will be on Spotify and iTunes. Shawn, let's get into it, man. I think that the biggest news of the day. I mean, there's a lot of I think the biggest news of the day is probably the Derrick Henry news. I also think the Von Miller is a very big trade, but let's start with the Derrick Henry, because now that I'm just putting it in my head, that's the biggest news, because honestly, man, Derrick Henry is probably the most important player on a team not named Lamar Jackson. And maybe you could even say he's more important than Lamar Jackson. Obviously, non-quarterback wise, he's obviously the most important if you're taking quarterbacks out of the picture. So your initial reactions right off the bat when that Schefter news came on your screen this morning, early afternoon, what did you think?
I think it's a gut punch for him because he's definitely the whole offense. It goes through him. Even with AJ and Julio out there, it's still Derrick Henry's show. And they're going to try to run him constantly, and he ended up getting hurt. I know fantasy-wise coming in, if we'd have done the show earlier, I would have had him on my do not draft list, which I know sounds crazy, but you just don't have running backs run for that many carries and then not get hurt the next year. And he's done it 2 straight years. He made me look foolish last year doing it, but then he totaled for 370, and I was like, it can't happen 2 years in a row. As bad as it is, you never wish injury on anyone, but it's just statistically you just can't take that many carries getting hit constantly and not get hurt. And it just happened this year, and it sucks for them because they're 3 games up right now, which is actually probably a blessing because it seems to be a 6 to 8 week injury. So maybe if they can hold on just enough for the playoffs. The Colts really blew that yesterday because they had a good chance of coming back there and having a really good shot at the division. But now with the Titans having that 3-game lead, if they can just hold on and maybe get him back for the playoffs, they're still be in good shape. But this is going to be all about what Ryan Tannehill can do to carry that offense now, which is going to be very interesting to see because without Derrick Henry, and we saw him in Miami, I mean, it was with Adam Gase, but he's just a more shaky quarterback without that dominant run game behind him.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that you're spot on. The loss, the Colts screwed up big time there. I do think that this gives them a window to possibly get back into it, but I will go out on the line and say if the Colts win that game, I don't think Tennessee has any chance of holding on to the lead. But now because they won that game, they have that big of a lead, and they have the head-to-head against the Colts if it came down to a tiebreaker. So that game was massive. When it comes to Ryan Tannehill, again, we don't wish for any injury, but it's going to be fascinating to now see. We're going to learn everything about Ryan Tannehill. And I don't even want to bring up the Miami days because I think it's completely different. I think he's a different quarterback, but it's all we have to go off of, so it's fair to bring up. I think he's, new coach, new system, way more confidence, that's for sure, but has never had big boy Henry behind him. And we're going to learn everything now. We are literally going to learn about what type of quarterback he is. Is he a guy that can carry a team? Julio is also banged up, so it's not like they have just all of their weapons ready. But at the end of the day, you're right. Derrick Henry, for the longest time, looked like the Martian of running backs, the dude that just was the anomaly, and he would not get hurt. But no matter how big you are, no matter how good you are, that position is going to slap you in the face eventually. It's just the definition of the position, dude. And unfortunately, that's kind of what came out and happened. And now we're just going to have to see if they can hold things down until then. But I think the Colts in their locker room right now, again, you don't know what I think that they are feeling a little bit of, okay, we shot ourselves in the foot, but we have some life now.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing that's saving them right there, because they have to feel awful about letting that game slip. They came out on fire in that first quarter. And I mean, in the NFL, the first quarter is an eternity away. You can come out, as long as you don't go up like 28-0 in the first, you still have some life, even if you're up by like 3 scores, the other team can still come back. It's the NFL kind of thing. But they still came out firing, and then they just let that game get away from them. Yeah. Then they were up again in the fourth, and Carson Wentz was playing good, but then all of a sudden he started going back to old Carson Wentz with that turnover in the fourth quarter, the turnover in overtime. And it's just stuff like that can't happen at this point in his career. I mean, you're going to hear it on every show there is, roasting Carson Wentz for the play. It's just it's bad. It's bad quarterbacking. He tried to throw it with his left hand. I mean, come on now. It's just they have to feel a little bit better just because the injury happened and they have a shot now. But after that game, you could almost kiss the playoff run, the division goodbye after that. And now it's just like a slight 5-10% chance that they have coming back right here.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. And I mean, the interception in the end zone, it's a tight end screen. So there's literally no blocking, bro. Like no one is blocking for him. It's a literally tight end screen. The blockers, the O linemen are blocking for the tight end. So I feel like, I mean, I see Matt Ryan do this all the time, where we do a play like that and the play goes to crap and he just immediately chucks it at the legs. Like that's the first instinct I feel like from a quarterback, is to just throw it at the legs. And that's when Carson Wentz's Superman ability just gets in the way, man. He just has this ability where he thinks he can carry everyone on the team. And look, I don't want to sit up here and demolish Carson Wentz, because other than that, he has had a very good season. He's only had 1 interception other than up to this game. Now he has 3 on the season. He has carried the team in terms of being a lot of the members being injured. He played on 2 hurt ankles. Quentin Nelson was out for a while. He has really done well for a long time this season. That game came back and hit him. And now they play a Jets team that, look, they're riding hot right now. And it will be really interesting to see how he steps out of that adversity, because this is the first time under the Colts where he's going to have some serious adversity. So you have the adversity, but then you also have a blink of hype, knowing that maybe you have a chance to get back into it. I do think Carson Wentz will bounce back. And another thing that no one's talking about is they were only down to 3 active wide receivers in that game. And I think had something to do with it in his head. And there's no excuses here. But when those wide receivers kept getting hurt, he just kept throwing to Pittman. And Pittman's really good. I mean, he's emerging as a wide receiver 1. He is a really good receiver. But you got to be willing to take the check down. If he takes the check down to Jonathan Taylor might get to the 50-yard line. They might win that game, or they might most likely get in field goal position to try and win that game. So it was a disastrous second quarter on for Carson Wentz, and he has a short turnaround for Thursday for him to step up and see what he can do from here.
Yeah, Thursday's their season. You got to hit your layups at this point if you're trying to come back. You've got to beat the Jets. You're going to have to beat the Jags when you play them. I think it's in 2 weeks. They've got to win those 2 games. It's no excuse. They're kind of lucky they're catching the Jags at home because it's weird. Like the one game the Jags won last year was when they play in Jacksonville. And I think it's like the last 3 years they've beat the Colts in Jacksonville every year. It's like the one game that it's almost like guaranteed win.
I remember week 1 last year.
Yeah, so they're going to need to hit their layups for sure if they're going to claw their way back in because the Titans, I don't think they're going to lose all their games. Like I said, they're going to be shaky. They're still a solid team, though. They're just they're just nowhere near as dominant and nowhere near as they don't have the offensive identity they used to have. They're just going to have to go to more of a throwing game. I know they're signing Adrian Peterson, but I mean, what are you really getting out of Adrian Peterson right now? I know he's a freaking ager too, but we'll see how he can do at his age. And I mean, so we'll see how that goes with the running. What you were saying about the wide receivers is spot on, though. The Colts, they really need another wide receiver, like desperately. They only have Pittman because T.Y. keeps getting hurt. It wouldn't shock me if T.Y. retires. That's what he was talking about, retirement in the offseason. It wouldn't shock me if he retires after this season. Then you have Paris Campbell, who's injured every year. I mean, every year. He came back, caught a 50-yard bomb, and then got hurt like almost the next play. He was out for the year. So, I mean, they definitely need another receiver to go Pittman, another speed guy because their 2 speed guys keep getting hurt. They're solid at running back, O-line, obviously. I mean, the Colts are a solid team. It's just for some reason that receiving core just keeps getting injured, and Carson's just got to do a little better job in crunch time against like really good teams like that. But I mean, like I said, Carson's been playing well, like you said as well too. He hasn't been turning it over until the game, so they definitely have a shot. I think they're going to go in and beat the Jets. I think the Jets are riding too high right now. They might come back down to earth really quick. They were throwing a ton of check downs to their running backs. And the Bengals linebackers are good in the run game, but in the passing game necessarily, I don't believe they're spot on, whereas Darius Leonard's going to be coming up and tackling that. So I think it's going to be a good matchup for the Colts this week, and I think it's their time to turn it around right here and then make it an interesting race to end this year in the division.
Yeah, we can get into that game more, but that was the ultimate trap game for the Bengals. I mean, that was literally the definite, for you betting people out there, that was the definition of the public versus the sharps. Every single public person out there that just bets on the games for fun or bets on them just here and there was all over the Bengals. And every single professional bettor out there was all over the Jets. And that's why I was like, this just feels iffy. And the books won big on that. I mean, that was a total trap game there. I don't think it's that big of a thing or like an issue on the Bengals. I think they were riding too high. Real quick, when you look at the Titans' schedule, they got at the Rams, then they are home to the Saints, then they have the Texans, then they are at the Patriots, then they have the Jags, the Steelers, the 49ers. I mean, that is a tough schedule, man. So, I mean, you can definitely mark up a win versus the Texans, maybe against the Jaguars, but that's still, you never know, especially late in the season like that. Lawrence will be playing much better. Then you look at the Colts. The Colts have the Jets, the Jaguars. If they can win those 2 games and the Titans lose the next 2 to the Rams and the Saints, which is very possible, you're then already putting pressure on the Titans. So that these next 2 games for both these teams, dude, are going to be fascinating, and they're must-win games for the Colts. There's no doubt about that. Anything else you want to hit on about this Henry news or any of this stuff before we move on?
That Titans game against the Jags, is that at Tennessee or in Jacksonville?
The Titans, that is in Tennessee.
Okay, you can lock that as a win. I don't think the Jags have won there since like 2011.
Yeah, you're right. I have actually seen that stat.
Yeah, it's bad. Like just like the Jags playing in Seattle last week, it's just like almost automatic L. Like I'm kind of used to that. So I mean, maybe with Henry out, it's a little bit different, but it's gonna be hard until I see it happen. I don't know if that's gonna be a win. So they've got to hit their layups too. That's a tough schedule, like you were saying. Because I mean, the Steelers are no joke on defense, and now without Henry, you got to worry about them just shutting down the pass game.
Bro, and go to the Patriots, you know Belichick is going to destroy Tannehill. He's going to do everything he can.
Oh, yeah, the O-line's a little shaky in pass block, too. It isn't like they're just a great pass blocking O-line. They're a really good run blocking O-line, and everything happens off play action. So those two games are going to be very interesting there. And, I mean, good God, the Rams are playing better than anyone in the league other than maybe the Packers. Like,
Packers, Cowboys, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a tough schedule. So the Colts got to feel pretty good. They've got to win these next 2 weeks, though. So I think that's kind of where we're at on that. I mean, the division's up in the air again, but the Colts really needed to win that game. But
the Colts have some work to do. There's no doubt about it. And if the Colts did win that game, they would have been sitting real pretty. But now that they didn't, their next 2 games against the Jets and the Jags are absolute must-wins. Otherwise, they're done, no matter what happens with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry moving forward. Let's move on before we get into the games here, man. Let's move on to another big news off the field that is going to affect on the field, which is the Von Miller news here. Look, you just said the Rams might be playing better than anyone, and the rich just got richer, bro. And I want to tackle this a different way. And I want you to hit on this as well because I want to hear your thoughts to it, and then we'll talk about what this means to the Rams on the field. But it is absolutely fascinating to me, Shawn, what Les Snead is doing in a league, man, that is so stingy and so just all about their draft picks. There is not one other league in this professional sport world that cares more about draft picks. Draft picks are everything to NFL teams. And the Rams are looking at those draft picks and saying, we don't give a damn about you because we trust our scouting. We trust that we can find players in the late rounds, and we trust our talent, our top tier talent. And we're not going to worry about our depth or anything like that because we think our top tier talent is good and it's going to hold up. Everyone's going this way, bro, and he's zagging. He is doing the complete opposite from what every GM is doing. And if they win the Super Bowl, it's worth it, right? It's maybe, I mean, you can answer that in a minute, but if they don't win the Super Bowl, this is going to eventually come crashing down, maybe 5 years down the road, maybe 6 years down the road, maybe 2 years down the road. Who knows? But it's fascinating to me how Les Snead is changing the opinion of the way teams look at draft picks. It's fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Team building wise, they're definitely built completely different than any other team you see. It's insane what they do. They haven't had a first round pick since Jared Goff.
And they still make the playoffs every year. It's crazy, dude.
They're back end of the rounds. They're third. They traded the thirds away. Now they're 4th through 7th round picks, and their undrafted free agents are absolutely insane. They always pick up value free agent guys like Leonard Floyd. I mean, they picked him up off the street a few years ago. He's a baller for them.
Yeah.
I think it's an ultimate trust in Sean McVay. It really is what it is. On offense, they just have a scheme. McVay schemes them up. And then on defense, they just plug and play. They're built like an NBA team is what they are. They're built just like an NBA team is. They're very top heavy. They have about 7 stars that they pay money to. Both the wide receivers, Kupp and Woods, Stafford, obviously, Donald Ramsey on the defense. Now they have Von Miller. Von Miller, I think, is going to be more of like just a pass rush guy. I mean, that's what they're going to bring him in to do. So they're just so solid at picking up people in the later rounds and making these trades. And I know you said it might fall apart in 5 years. I don't know if it will. I think this is just what they do. Honestly, I think they just have ultimate faith in McVay's system. And if these players start falling off, I think they're just going to keep trading for people. Like, it's just, okay, we lost a star. All right, we'll trade this for this. So everyone talks about Andrew Whitworth being being 39. Maybe he'll play one more year. I mean, he's still dominant at 39.
Yeah,
it's pretty
very
insane.
dominant.
Everyone talks about Brady for all that talk. Whitworth's crazy at left tackle to be playing the way he is at 39. So when he does retire in a year or two, would it shock you if they didn't just go, all right, Detroit, you have Penei Sewell, let's get Taylor Decker from you and just trade 2 first-round picks for him?
Not at all.
That's just what they do. It's insane, but it's a good way to build a team if you have that much confidence and if you hit on the key positions that you need to. Like they have cornerback, interior pass rush, quarterback. They have 2 receivers now that's so important in the league. If you hit on those positions, you're going to be in the playoffs almost every year, as long as you just don't have putrid offensive line play, which they don't with McVay's system. So it's a solid setup, and they're going to keep it going, I believe.
I believe they're going to keep it going too, as long as and they should have faith in McVay. He's shown nothing to not have faith in, but as long as they're able to keep a quarterback, because like you could tell things were starting to go off the rail a bit with Goff, and they said we have to make a change. So when Stafford starts to get to the age where okay, it's not going to work anymore, are they going to be able to keep making a change? And maybe they'll just trade, like you said, trade another 2 first-round picks. And move on and find another QB. As long as they can keep doing that, and it doesn't even have to be a superstar QB. I mean, because McVay's level of confidence with his scheme is so good. Now, if they can get a superstar like Stafford, that changes everything. But it's just fascinating, man. It really is. You see a lot of these guys, man, they won't trade a first-round pick for anything. I mean, like, people won't trade a first-round pick it's so hard for teams to trade a first-round pick these days. They just won't do it. And Les Snead is sitting up there like, here's 2 first, here's 2 second, here's 2 third, party. But the main thing is they hit on the later rounds, dude. They do find like Van Jefferson. They find these players in the later round. They do really good with scouting, and that's important because you see some of these teams that are so bad at drafting later round players, and it just kills them. So that's the key. They have to keep doing what they're doing in free agency, and they have to hit on their later round drafts. And one thing I want to say, because I saw some people saying this on Twitter, I saw people saying, how are they paying all of these players? And something that people don't really understand is they're just paying Von Miller his base salary. The Broncos, for some reason, the NFL has, I don't even know if it's a rule, but the NFL does it where the team that's trading the player is the one that's taking on the signing bonus still, unless the 2 teams negotiate it out a certain way. So, like, they're just taking on Von Miller's base salary, which really isn't that much. It's the signing bonus, and that's really the bulk of it. So they're really not even, I mean, some of these players, they're taking on huge money, the ones that like Jalen Ramsey and stuff like that, but they're paying these guys, one, because their owner's good with it, but also it's not as much money as some people expect. Isn't that correct?
Oh yeah. So in the NBA, it's salary to salary. Like all these pieces have to line up.
Exactly.
And it's almost like a huge math problem. Like I feel like to be an NBA GM or to be a cap manager in the NBA, you have to have like a serious math degree almost. Yes. You've got to have that money line up perfectly. Yeah. So that's why when you see star players get traded, you see like huge contracts like that Otto Porter deal. Like you get a bunch of different random contracts thrown in. Yeah. And the NFL is not like that at all. So Von's getting paid, I think it's $9.7 million. I think the Rams are paying him $700K. That's what they negotiated. Essentially, the Broncos are paying $9 million for those 2 draft picks to get draft picks in return. Exactly. Is what it is. It's a smart way to do it. It's a way to get around the cap, and more teams should do that, honestly. And if you do notice when they do make these trades, when they made the Jalen Ramsey trade, Ramsey still had his 4th year and then the 5th year option. Yeah. So then when they extended him, all that cap is down the line. Yeah. So it's just a way of moving money. They just move money around. Mickey Loomis and the Saints are the best at this.
Yep, they do it really well too. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone was like, oh, they're going to lose all these players in the offseason. They did lose Trey Hendrickson. Yeah. And I mean, they lost a few players, but they still tagged their safety that made the pick on Brady at the end of the game. So he's tagged. Yeah. They'll figure out a way to sign him next year. They signed Lattimore back. I swear what they're going to do is they're going to trade Michael Thomas and sign that safety. And it's just going to move the money differently. Because whoever trades for Michael Thomas will take his money and they'll find a receiver somewhere. It's just what great GMs do in this league. They move money around. And that's what's perfect about it. So a lot of these other worse teams that need draft picks that do want to hoard those picks like you were talking about and build that way, they'll pay money for those picks because they're not paying the salary right now. And then they'll pay their draft picks that they hit down the line. So it works out in both ways. I find it very fascinating to watch how NFL teams build like that. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Same, bro. And I applaud teams and I hate the Saints. But I applaud the way that they do it because they're pretty much saying we're not giving in. Like we're going to keep up. We're going to keep our cap this high, and we're just going to keep doing different things to keep it high because we're going to want to keep winning, and we're going to keep trying to keep our top players around. And I respect that, man. You see some teams that are like, oh, we're right up here on the cap level. We're just going to give a bunch of 1-year deals until next year when we have more cap, or until 2 years down the line when we have more cap. And it's just like, no, like if you feel like you have some good pieces, keep going for it. And the Saints are just doing it different, and the Rams are really doing it different. I mean, the Rams are not holding back at all. In terms of on the field, man, with Von Miller, you said he's probably just going to be a pass rusher. The thing is, man, he's going to be a damn good pass rusher because Aaron Donald is going to get all the attention. They still have to give Leonard Floyd a ton of attention. I mean, dude, when you're going to give this guy single coverage, he's going to dominate. He is the presence of Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd is going to make Von Miller dominate again.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they're going to do is they're just going to go watch film each week and say, all right, that right tackle can pass block good. The left tackle's a little rough. Let's put Vaughn on that side.
Yeah.
All right, the right tackle struggles in that pass blocking game. All right, we're going to put Vaughn on that side. And then they're going to put Leonard Floyd on the other end because you got to double Aaron Donald every time. I mean, how many guards in the league can go one-on-one with Aaron Donald? None, maybe. Maybe Quentin Nelson on certain plays, maybe. And that's pushing it. I mean, you got your guy Lindstrom, maybe him, but they're going to line Donald up on the other side. They'll mismatch Donald. They'll move him around. Yeah. So it's really impossible to single Donald out, and then that's just going to leave Vaughn wide open to pass rush the whole game. So that was a very good pickup on their part because I think they also looked around the league and said, all right, who are these teams we got to beat? We got to beat Kyler Murray in that offense. Got to get some pressure on him. We've got to beat Aaron Rodgers, who's just back there picking teams apart, even without his best weapons. Yeah. They got to get some pressure on him because he's getting Bakhtiari back. So you're going to have to put Vaughn on that right side, get some pressure on him. So then you got Tom Brady, who hates pressure in general. So they have the pusher in the middle with Donald. So now you got the edge presence to try to give him some problems. I think the Rams saw what was happening in the NFC. There's 3 other dominant teams along with them that are all playing well. You'd say those are probably the top 4. Plus Dallas, so you need to get on Dak too. I mean, I'm leaving Dallas out rather than I shouldn't. Dallas is also a Super Bowl contender. So you got to heat Dak up a little bit too. I think they saw those other 4 teams and said, all right, we're going to need to pressure their quarterback and keep ours comfortable. Ours is pretty comfortable in the system. We're going to put some heat on theirs. And they made the trade, and they went all in for it. I got to respect them for it because I think that's the best way to win the Super Bowl with how their team is currently built right now.
No doubt. No doubt about it. Especially, and like you said, Brady. I mean, that everyone knows the one way to beat Brady. The Saints are showing you that. You get pressure on him without a blitz, man. And when you have those three guys, it can happen. Same thing with Kyler and all of those guys. So the Rams are going all in for it, and they see how dominant they are right now, and they said, why the hell not? And I can't blame them one bit about it. Let's move on. What other games or topics do you want to hit on here before we move a little bit further? Oh, let's do this because you talked about the Cowboys. Let's move on to that Sunday night game here. And I'm going to give you the floor first because I know you want to talk about the Cowboys. I'll comment about them too. And then I really want to hit on the Vikings side of things here after what we saw on Sunday night. So go ahead and talk to us about a Cowboys team that is really, really good.
Yeah, the Cowboys team is legit. I'm so used to them going 8-8. My dad was a Cowboys fan, and then I have several friends. If you're from North Carolina, I mean, if you're from anywhere, you know a ton of Cowboy fans. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm used to them going anywhere from 7-9, 8-8, 9-7. Sometimes they'll have a big year and be like a 1 or 2 seed, and then they always choke it away in the playoffs. This team's different. And I'm not used to seeing it happen, but this team's different for sure. They have playmakers everywhere. I mean, their pass rush is hitting home. I mean, Micah Parsons, what a home run pick. He's everywhere. I mean, he makes every tackle in the backfield. When it's down the field, he's everywhere. Trayvon Diggs, he's a little boom or bust, but he gets the picks.
Yeah.
Which is what you need. You need a playmaker back there. And Dan Quinn has those boys playing right. Dan Quinn, respect to him, he switched that scheme up, which I was talking about that scheme a few weeks ago about how much I hate that Seattle cover 3. I hate that scheme. He switched it up, and they're playing much better in Dallas because of it. And then on offense, they just have playmakers everywhere. I mean, one of the best receiver cores in the game, obviously. Tight end grouping is good. They have two solid ones, two solid running backs. The O-line is so solid. And then Dak's just back there pulling the trigger, throwing the playmakers. And even you saw it with Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush just making plays, throwing to Cedric Wilson, 6th-round pick, throwing to CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's winning one-on-ones. I mean, they are stacked at every position, and they're definitely a contender. Those 5 NFC teams are so legit, and they're all definitely making the playoffs, barring any injury. So that's going to be something to watch because I think the Cowboys are in a very good position for that number 1 overall seed because their schedule is a lot lighter than those other teams are.
Yeah, because of where they finished last year. The Cowboys. The most impressive thing to me is their defense. We knew their offense was going to be good. As long as Dak was healthy, we knew they were going to be good. Their offensive line's back to what we used to think they were. Dude, did you see that throw that Cedric Wilson made on the run? I mean, that was an NFL quarterback type throw, man. That was a beautiful throw. He's become a nice little receiver they've got there with Michael Gallup out. It's another guy they're going to get back. They're going to get Gallup back. They're stacked on every which way possible. And you got to give it to Dan Quinn too, man. Look, Dan Quinn, I have a lot of love, hate for him. He a lot of love. He did a lot of great things in Atlanta, but there was also some down things, and he stepped up and he reviewed what was wrong with his system, and he changed it up, and he's using those players the right way. They are, for the first time in a long time, Cowboys fans can actually be very excited about this team. I still worry about Mike McCarthy. I'm not going to lie, man. There's still something about Mike McCarthy that just makes me feel like he's going to mess something up here. He's going to mess something up, but I do think that they have the talent to go very, very far. It will be interesting when you match up with some of these teams like Arizona, which they play down the road, so we'll get to see that. They played the Bucs week 1, so you can't really count that. The Rams, all of these teams, but they are without a doubt a top contender in the NFC. And it will be interesting to see if they make any moves in the trade deadline because Jerry Jones will do something if he feels like he has a good chance to win it all this year, and he clearly does, you know? That could be something they look for.
Yeah, I've got to give them props just in general at some other places too. Their O-line scouting is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, Lyle Collins isn't even playing, and their tackles are so solid with Tyron Smith and Steele on the right side. Like, they constantly just pick up O-linemen in these 3rd and 4th and 5th rounds, and they're better O-linemen than a lot of them in the league because O-lines are just generally down in general.
Yep.
So the way they pick up O-linemen's crazy. Also, as the new school would say, I've got to give Kellen Moore his flowers. What an absolute beast of a play caller. I mean, he's gonna get hired.
I'm glad you brought him up, bro. I really am.
They move the ball with different tempos. I mean, you see them try to hurry to the line, sometimes catch them off guard, then they'll slow it up on you. You see they'll hand the ball off to Zeke, then to Tony Pollard. They do so many different personnel groupings. It's so hard to prepare for. Kellen Moore is just in an offensive genius McVay type, Shanahan type bag that everyone considers these offensive geniuses. He's one of them, and he's going to have his pick of jobs in the offseason. I think him and Dayball is probably going to be the 2 leading candidates if you're looking, because about 6 jobs always comes open, anywhere from 6 to 8, 9. So you're going to see Kellen Moore get about his pick of the litter of who he wants to go to, and he showed it with Cooper Rush last night. It's not just a Dak thing. He showed with Cooper Rush that he could develop a game plan around his quarterback strengths and the personnel he had and just throw an absolute shutout against a Mike Zimmer defense that's really good against the pass. They're a little shaky on the run, really good against the pass. And I think that's going to lead into what you want to talk about, which I'm right on board with you, and I can't wait to talk about it too. So how are you feeling about old Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer and them in Minnesota?
Yeah, so real quick, you're right. Kellen Moore will definitely be a candidate for some head coaching jobs this coming offseason. He's done a really good job. And when Mike McCarthy first got the job there, I was so confused why he was giving Kellen Moore the play calling duties when he was like, I'm going to come in here and take Dak to the next level. And he clearly saw something in Kellen Moore. So I do have to give him props for that because that was a great decision by him. So you're right about that. Look, the Minnesota Vikings, dude, there's no more excuse. Like, this is no disrespect to Cooper Rush, who, by the way, looked awesome. Like, he went out there and looked great. But for his first ever NFL start, This isn't like he's a seasoned veteran coming in as a backup for one game. This was his first ever NFL start, and he 100% outdueled Kirk Cousins. He threw more passing yards. He threw more first downs. He threw more completions. He threw more touchdowns. Every single thing that Kirk Cousins did, Cooper freaking Rush said, I can do it better. And I always hear these Vikings fans, it's freaking Mike Zimmer's fault. It's the defense's fault. At the end of the day, Kirk Cousins is just not the quarterback that is going to get this team very far. He'll have some seasons here and there that are very impressive, and then that's about it. And it's just gotten to this point where that's it, you know? Like, I don't see any that. Last night, I don't see how you could sit there and watch as a Vikings fan and have any hope for the future, any hope at all for the future, knowing what you just saw until you move on from Kirk Cousins. That was embarrassment, dude. It was a terrible performance. He has two of the best wide receivers in the league. KJ Osborne's a really good third receiver. I mean, he has some good receivers. Dalvin Cook is one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best at sometimes. And they could barely move the ball. And look, the Cowboys defense is good. We just gave it its props. They ain't that good, man. Like, you should be able to move the ball. The Giants moved the ball on them. Like, a lot of teams have the Mack Jones moved the ball on them. They were at home on Sunday night. It was pathetic. It was an absolutely pathetic performance, dude. And this killed. They still can make the playoffs, but this really, really hurt their chances.
Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins has become what everyone should know as the middle of the pack quarterback.
Yeah.
You're going to have him beat bad teams and struggle against good ones. And that's just where it is. No matter the talent around him. As I mean, like you said, Justin Jefferson's a top 5 receiver. Thielen's top 20, somewhere around there.
Yeah, for sure.
Dalvin Cook's a top 5 back. Madison's great behind him. The O-line is solid. Mm-hmm. And Kirk Cousins just folds in these primetime games or against really good opponents. He couldn't move the ball against the Browns either. I mean, it's just anytime you face an above average opponent, he like tightens up. He just can't get it going. And he's just the definition of, all right, if we have this quarterback, we're going to win a lot of games against worser opponents. And we might beat a good team every now and then. But if you're thinking he's going to get you to a Super Bowl, it's not going to happen. And I do want to ask you this, because this is something that I was curious about watching that game. Last draft, we know that the Vikings were trying to go up really hard to get Justin Fields.
Yeah.
After watching Kirk Cousins a few weeks, do you think Justin Fields would be in the game right now? Do you think Zimmer would have made the switch if they had a viable quarterback like that and just said, all right, we're just going to have Justin Fields make some zone reads with his legs with Dalvin behind and throw to these great receivers and not make him do too much like the Bears have tried to make him do? I mean, he looked really good this week. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But he looked really good.
He did.
But I'm just saying, do you think the Vikings, if they had got their guy like they were trying to go up and get him, do you think he'd already be replacing Kirk Cousins? And maybe we'd look at Kirk Cousins as a deadline guy right here.
The only issue with that is Mike Zimmer's an old school type of coach. And I just don't know if he would be the one to make the trigger on that. Do I think he should? Yeah. If they had Justin Fields sitting there, I 1,000% think he should have made that. He should make that move. And I think that it's now tells us why they wanted to move up and get someone, because they see it, man. They see it. They were terrible last year, and everyone blamed it on the defense last year. And the defense was really bad, but Kirk Cousins just isn't going to help. The only way Kirk Cousins is going to be good is if they have a top of the line lockdown defense, and he barely has to do anything for them, but just simply manage the game. And even that, it isn't going to be great. So 1,000%, I would be putting Justin Fields in there if it was me, or if I had someone back there that could actually make things happen with their legs. It's just, dude, it's just gone to the point where there's no more excuses about them. And I know fans in Minnesota, they're known to be like really nice fans, which is awesome and all that. And they like Kirk Cousins and stuff. But it's just got like Minnesota's best year was with Case Keenum at quarterback. Like, people forget that. Like, Case Keenum had the best season for Minnesota. It was not Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has had a couple good playoff years. He had that one playoff victory, a couple good regular season years, had that one playoff victory against the Vikings where actually Dalvin Cook was a monster in that game. And that's about it, man. I think 100% the Vikings have to move on this offseason. If they roll back with the exact same thing, it is going to be, it's insanity. It's just insanity at this point. It's going to be the exact same results. I would be shocked come draft night if they are not drafting or going after a quarterback in free agency.
Yeah, I don't know how they feel about Kellen Mond, but I feel like you have to look at somebody at this point. Yeah.
Bro, why not give him a shot? I mean, just see what happens.
I mean, if they're out of it towards the end of the year, I definitely could see them benching Cousins, throwing Mond out there, and then either looking for that bridge guy or either finding someone in the draft.
Yeah.
Maybe a Kenny Pickett, like we talked about, somebody like that. Just because you just need somebody that's going to get the ball to these playmakers under a little bit of duress. Anytime you give Kirk Cousins any pressure whatsoever. And I think an underrated thing, too, is they lost Diggs because Diggs wasn't getting targeted right. I mean, Kirk would just not get him the ball where it needed to be. You see Diggs now in Buffalo, and the Vikings just straight up lucked into Justin Jefferson being there because straight up the Jags should have took him at 19. Then the Eagles had no excuse to not take him in the Jalen Reagor spot. So they lucked into getting Justin Jefferson, and I just don't see them riding with Kirk Cousins over another star receiver because he can't be too happy with having to bail Kirk out all the time. You see Thielen get hot on the sideline with him all the time, and Thielen is a nicer guy too. Like, he's from Minnesota, he loves the Vikings and everything. So you see how they are on the sideline. They know Kirk's limited, and I mean, Kirk Cousins just got to do a better job if he's going to keep playing. But I just don't see it at this point in his career. He's just going to be a solid starter. That's what he is. He's your borderline. He's probably, if you're talking quarterbacks 1 through 32, he's in that 16 to 20 range. He's going to win you some games. He's not going to go win you games when he has to carry you, but he'll win the games that you should win.
And that's just not enough for a team that's this talented, bro. It just cannot be enough for a team that is as talented, especially offensively. And they've got some really good studs on the defensive side of the ball too. I mean, it's just, look, and you know what's going to end up happening? Maybe not, but what's going to end up happening is Zimmer's probably going to lose his job because I know the fans and a lot of these people are testy now with Zimmer. If the owner, and I actually do think they have good management there in Minnesota. I think they're good with how they go about their ways. If they're smart about this, they're going to figure out a way to move on from Cousins and do something new because I couldn't believe what I was seeing last night, man. It was really, really pathetic in my opinion.
He got outplayed by Cooper Rush.
Not just that. I mean, he got destroyed Cooper Rush looked like an all-star compared to Kirk Cousins out there. He looked like a Pro Bowler compared to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had one good drive, and that was the first drive of the game, and then they absolutely did nothing from there on out. This is the Money Down Pod. I am Kayvon Izami. That's my guy, Shawn White. Follow him on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan. Follow me at Kayvon_sports. Follow the show at Money Down Pod. Find us on YouTube. As Shawn said in the beginning of the show, we will be on Spotify and iTunes and all of that by next show. That will be up there very, very soon, so you can find us there. We're rolling along here on this Recap Monday. Shawn, take us to your next topic, bro. What do you want to talk about from here?
I don't know. I kind of just wanted to bounce around some games right quick.
Okay.
I think we could probably, since you brought up my Twitter handle, we could probably talk about your Falcons for a second, that and the Panthers, because they're honestly still in the playoff hunt in the NFC. I mean, I don't think they're going to win a playoff game with those top teams or anything, but they're still in the last wild card hunt, and that was a rough game to watch from our point of view. And also, I think I'll bring it up to start with, and then I'll let you talk about it. Obviously, we hope Calvin Ridley's okay.
Yeah.
Ridley being out for those personal issues. I mean, you never know what's going on in someone's head with someone's personal life. And obviously we hope that he's okay and doing well. And if he needs to step away, he needs to step away. So big props to the organization and the fans for accepting all that and not getting on him too hard, because if he needs to step away, he does. And we hope he's okay and comes back whenever he's ready to come back.
Yeah, no, very, very well said by you. look, this is bigger than football, and this is damn sure bigger than any of y'all's fantasy teams out there, bro. And don't even come at me with you drafted him in the first round or whatever. I don't give a damn, and neither does he. This is so much bigger than football right now. This is about life. And Shawn, I told you, man, I told you a couple weeks ago, I said something just seemed off with Calvin Ridley. He just wasn't himself, man. He just didn't seem like Calvin Ridley is so upbeat and happy when like the first couple years there, and he plays with so much passion. And I could just tell something was missing. And I'm glad that he had the courage to kind of come out in such a manly sport and say, I need to take a break. You know, Lane Johnson did it over in the Eagles a couple weeks ago, and Lane Johnson commented on and said he respects Calvin Ridley. He did the same thing, and I respect Ridley. I really respect the Falcons organization for saying, we understand, we got to give him his props. And the Falcons fans will accept him and be very happy when he comes back, but he deserves to take as much time as he needs. There's no doubt about that. So I'm glad you brought that up. In terms of the game, I do think his abrupt note of that he was leaving really had an impact on the Falcons. And this isn't an excuse because it was such a bad offense, but you could tell that the game plan was just off. It was just off. Like there was clearly something missing there, because when they played that Jets game without Ridley, they had a good 4 days, because we found out about that a little bit earlier, to game plan. And you could tell they used Hayden Hurst a lot more. They were doing different things with Kyle Pitts. They were getting Zacchaeus involved. In this game, bro, Russell Gage didn't even get a target. It was Tajay Sharp and Kyle Pitts, and that's it. How do you not even give Russell Gage a target? He ends up becoming your wide receiver 2, unfortunately, when Ridley is out, with Pitts being your tight end 1 and wide receiver 1, and he didn't even get a target. The offensive game plan was atrocious. The defense was bad, but they actually kept us in the game. I mean, we only allowed the Panthers to score 19 points. We should have been able to score more. It just was a really, really bad offensive performance, man. And there's really no excuse to it. And Arthur Smith has to be better. The Panthers were quadruple teaming. I've never seen this before in a rookie, bro. He was getting quadruple teamed. And Matt Ryan had a couple picks trying to force it to him. He did have a really, really untimed. That was his first drop of the season, and it couldn't have come at the worst time, because he dropped that on the 2-yard line, the 12-10 game. If he catches that, they most likely get a touchdown there, which puts them up 17-12 with 5 minutes to go. They probably end up winning that game, or at least get very close to it. Maybe have a last-second drive to score if the Panthers score. So those mistakes happen. You can't blame it on those mistakes. They just have to figure out what they're going to do now with Ridley gone. And this is going to be on Arthur Smith's shoulders, bro. It's going to be up to him to game plan a very good scheme to get these guys open and to get the running game flowing, instead of just chucking it up to Ridley when there's nothing going on and chucking it up to Pitts, because now defenses are just going to put all of the pressure on Pitts. And they're just going to say, try and beat us with Gage, try and beat us with Sharp, try and beat us with Zacchaeus and Cordell Patterson and those type of guys. So I know you didn't get to watch it much, but if you want to put your thoughts in on that, you cannot score 13 points in a ball game. You just can't do that in the NFL, especially when you're an offensive coach.
Yeah, I think what the game actually showed, and it was on both sides, is kind of how the NFL is now in general on how you win games. Wide receivers are so important now.
Yeah.
Because it's a quarterback wide receiver game with the holding penalties and the way pass interference is called, and the way you just can't light somebody's head up over the middle anymore. It's just an open field now. So it's so important to have those playmakers on the outside to make it easier on your quarterback and to threaten defenses. And I mean, even heavy run teams like we talked about the Titans with Derrick Henry, they still have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones on the outside. You got to have weapons in this league. And you see the teams that struggle to score have bad wide receiver groups. Yep. So without Ridley out there, that becomes a very, very weak unit, and they're going to need to pick something up. On the other side, the Panthers have strong wide receivers, but their quarterback's limited. And I know PFF graded Darnold as the number one quarterback this week. That's when PFF loses me a little bit.
Yeah,
it's like I know you're sitting there grading every play, but I watched a lot of those plays too, and there's no way that you're going to put Darnold at number one this week. It's such a weird grading system.
Yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting thing because both teams really did struggle to score. It was a struggle to score that way. One was due to quarterback play, one was due to wide receiver play. And that's just where this league's going. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fix their wide receiver issue because even when Ridley comes back, they still need another guy there.
They do.
With that being said, Arthur Smith does have to plan better, and I know me and you were talking about it with how Kenneth Walker played and everything, but the Falcons really need a running back as well, other than just Cordell. Cordell's going to be an excellent gadget guy. That's what he's been, and I think that Arthur Smith found the perfect way to use that gadget-type player in him, and he's going to keep doing that. But I don't think he can be your running back one either, and Mike Davis clearly can't. He just hasn't emerged as that yet. So that's some of the things that I think the Falcons need to work on. With that being said, AJ Terrell was a baller.
Bro, he's awesome.
Been a baller all year. He's easily y'all's best defensive player, even better than Grady Jarrett, in my opinion, right now, the way he's playing. So that's something. The Falcons, low-key, have good playmakers on all three levels on defense. They just need to round it out. So, like I said, I thought that game, even though it wasn't an offensive fireworks show, it definitely showed how the league is moving to and what these two teams need to work on. The Panthers have got to get a quarterback, and the Falcons need to get some more playmakers and some more solid defensive play if these two teams want to compete, even though they are still in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, no, it's such a great point by you, man, and you're seeing it. Just look at the last two drafts, bro. It's wide receiver heaven. I mean, these teams are just going after as many wide receivers as they can. It is truly a wide receiver league nowadays, and the Falcons are decimated. And they need to go out, whether it's John Brown, whether whoever, they need to go out there and sign a wide receiver. And like Falcons fans need to understand, they're not going to fix this problem this year. Like, there's no wide receiver out there that you're going to be able to bring in at this point of the season that's going to replace a Calvin Ridley or give you a really good wide receiver 1 or 2 / depth. It's not going to happen, which why it's got to go back onto being better at game planning. And I would love to get a Kenneth Walker, someone like that, because you're right. They got to get a running back. I am so happy with AJ Terrell, bro. He has gotten to the point now where quarterbacks really aren't even trying to throw to him. And that's where you know, okay, this guy's doing something right. So I love seeing what I'm seeing out of AJ Terrell. It was a disappointing loss all around, though, because if the Falcons win that game, they are sitting pretty, especially with the Vikings' demise, with the Panthers then losing. They're sitting pretty. Now, they're still in it somehow, but their next 2 games are against the Saints and against the Patriots. So they could very, very quickly fall out of it if they aren't able to capitalize. For me, though, man, it's just going to be watching how Arthur Smith goes about this moving forward. Can he find ways to get Kyle Pitts open? Because they were all over Kyle Pitts in this game, and we couldn't get him the ball worth crap. We didn't get Hayden Hurst the ball. It's got to find unique ways to get him the ball, and I'll be very interested to see that. But I was pretty depressed because that was just a really, really boring and awful game to watch on our end. Before we move forward, real quick about the Panthers. The Panthers have a good coach. Matt Rule's a good coach. You can tell. All right, I like Matt Rule. They have a good defense, too. Their defense actually is pretty sound, but it's just so key, man. It's just so obvious watching that game. They have no confidence in Sam Darnold. They did everything. Dude, even on 3rd and long, they said, Sam Darnold, run it instead of throw it. You could tell they wanted him to run around for a bit, act like no one's open, and then run the ball. They were more comfortable with him running the ball than anything, so Sam Darnold is not their guy moving forward. That is pretty obvious. Do you want to hit on the Jaguars real quick before we move on?
I mean, it ain't much to hit on, honestly. It was abysmal. I'm not going to spend too long on this because, like I said, I know we have a lot of viewers that that are Panther fans, so I like to hit on that game. Like a lot of the people that are watching us, we know from North Carolina and everything, they love to talk Panthers, so I like to talk to them a little bit. Obviously, give the viewers what they want, but I'll hit on my Jags just for a second. I mean, what a poorly coached job that was coming off the bye. Nothing worked. I mean, just nothing. And the Jags go into Seattle the last 20 years, they get blown out. They cannot play in Seattle for some reason. I don't know what it is about the stadium or what. I mean, the team's never been all that great either, but it's a completely new regime, and they just can't get anything going there. Trevor had an off day. Even saying that, none of the wide receivers could get separation. They're dropping passes left and right. The O-line couldn't block. I mean, Jawan Taylor's getting destroyed by Dunlap the whole game on the right side. Once Robinson got hurt, and that's a good thing. I'm glad we brought this up so I could say this. There's still a bunch of people that are just destroying the ETN pick in the first round. I don't want to hear anyone speak about that ever again. I watched Carlos Hyde not be an NFL player in the backfield, not pick up his pass protections, almost get Trevor killed one time. He dropped a pass. He's not dynamic at all. And people are out here talking about, oh, well, they shouldn't have drafted ETN. They have Robinson. Well, did you see what happened when Robinson went out of the game? It was awful. He's our best player, and it was awful. So you can still run 21 personnel with 2 running backs. I don't know if people know that in the NFL. Like, you can run 2 running backs at the same time, because ETN can catch passes. So the pick wasn't stupid. I understand where they were going with it, and that really showed. They needed him there when Robinson went out, and missing both of them is killing any bit of a safety valve Trevor had. So that was bad. On defense, I mean, we had 12 men on the field, followed by 12 men on the field in back-to-back plays. I mean, it was the worst coached defensive job I've seen by a Jags team in a while, and I watched Gus Bradley and Todd Wash coach the team for the last 10 years. That was pathetic. So they've got to work on those communication issues. I mean, it was, as my Twitter handle would say, it was a dumpster fire, and I've definitely felt it. With that being said, everyone's going to look at Trevor's numbers. I'm not worried about Trevor Lawrence. Everyone can calm down about that. It's his rookie year. He has hardly anything around him. We need to get some wide receiver help. I would expect to see 2, maybe 3 new wide receivers. If Chark comes back, it'll be 2. If Chark doesn't, it'll be 3. So that's kind of how I wanted to hit on the Jags. I mean, Geno Smith played well, and I feel like we should probably talk about the backup quarterbacks real quick after this. So if you want to start with Geno and bounce off of that, we can. Geno Smith played well. This is probably his last game playing because Russ should be back after the bye. But he did what he needed to do. He won, one of the 3 games he started, and it was against the team that he should have beat. So he did his job. DK Metcalf and Lockett are crazy, by the way. They were the only ones targeted, except for 3 targets the whole game. So
yeah, which is smart by Geno. I would throw everything their way too. I mean, if I was Geno, that's it. Wait, you said you want to hit on the other backups?
Yeah, I think it was backup quarterback day. We hit on Cooper Rush already. I feel like we should probably. This is kind of how I was thinking. We could hit Mike White right quick. We could hit Simeon because I do want to talk about that matchup the Saints have with the Buccaneers. There's something there for sure. And then we'll finish with Mack Jones because I know you want to talk about Mack Jones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about Mike. What is it? Mike White.
Mike White. My cousin, Mike White.
Well, let me tell you something. Your cousin has created, you ready for this? A quarterback controversy in New York. Yes. You heard it here, Jets fans. Zach Wilson, you should be worried, bro. You should be absolutely worried. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go there and do all that. But I will tell you this. I will honestly tell you this. I'm not going to go that far out there and say that. Zach Wilson now has some pressure on him. And it's not because Mike White is going to come in there and be their franchise quarterback or anything like that. Because no offense to Mike White, no offense to your cousin, bro. He might be the slowest quarterback I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. I could not believe what I was seeing when he was moving around out there, bro. That was so funny to me. But to his credit, he was tough, man. First of all, the 2 interceptions he threw weren't even his fault. They hit off the receiver's hands. Like, they were not. Dang, did we freeze?
You did for a second. I was about to say, uh-oh.
Oh, God. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back now. You blacked out after you said the 2 interceptions weren't his fault. It went off their hands, which is true. That they did hit off the receiver's hands. So. Yeah,
you went black on my screen, so I was like, "Is it him or is it me?" But I guess it was me. All right. So yeah, they went off the 2 receivers' hands, and he stuck in there, man. He played with some guts, and you could tell Robert Saleh, bro, was pumped about him. He was really pumped. And I know Zach Wilson is injured and all that right now. And again, I'm not going to go all crazy and say that Zach Wilson now has to compete with Mike White. But what Zach Wilson does have to show is he has to show some guts like that out there, bro. Because to me, other than that Tennessee game, he has shown me nothing. And I don't like to just come on here and rag on players. I ragged on Eagles last week. I'm ragging on the Vikings. I don't want to be that guy that's just ragging on all these players. But I wasn't very fond of Zach Wilson coming into it. I told you I liked his arm, and I told you that I thought he will be a good quarterback. But he has not shown anything to me, man. He really has not shown anything. And I'll get into this in Mack Jones, and I know you're not going to agree with me. If I'm redrafting this draft right now, there is no doubt in my mind that Mack Jones is the second quarterback taken off the board. And I don't even think it's close. I think Justin Fields is right behind him, but I really don't think it's close. I don't. Mack Jones is playing beautiful football, and Zach Wilson would be the last quarterback drafted out of all 5 of those guys right now. And Mike White stepped up in there with the exact same talent that Zach Wilson has, and he played football. Zach Wilson's got to do the same thing when he gets back. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He has to do the same thing when he gets back.
Well, I think Zach Wilson needs to watch that film because honestly, that would fix a lot of his issues. Even the game he balled out on, I went back and watched it. A lot of those throws are still dangerous ass throws.
Yeah.
It's just Tennessee didn't make the plays on them, and the receivers balled out, which is something I used to accuse Deshaun of when he was first year in the league. Deshaun used to do this thing where he'd run around and then just throw it up to Hopkins, and Hopkins would bail him out. And it used to infuriate me because I hate the Texans, obviously, in the division. And I'd be like, everyone is always all over Deshaun, but he's just throwing the ball up. But eventually Deshaun got out of that. Now he's one of those top 10 quarterbacks. So Zach Wilson needs to watch that film of Mike White and learn how to take a check down, which is something that Trevor Lawrence wasn't doing the first few games, and he started to do a little more of. That's something that Justin Fields has struggled with, and he did a little more of yesterday.
Carson Wentz struggles with it. It's the really talented guys. It's the guys that are super, super talented. They struggle with it because they're Superman in college. They're so good in high school. That's what happens.
Yeah, and it just looks worse for Zach Wilson, I believe, because he is coming from BYU. So it's an even bigger jump up to like, okay, well, I can throw this against like the random Utah players as the top competition, and it might go through. But if not, it's still a struggle because you're throwing it against NFL teams now. So I think Zach Wilson needs to watch that Mike White film, learn to take that check down, and he'll do a lot better. I don't necessarily think that it's a quarterback controversy either. I mean, it's Mike White after all. I mean, he's my third cousin twice removed or whatever. But he's definitely gonna have to learn how to take that check down. And I think Zach will be fine doing that. Like I said, it's way too early to call on a lot of these quarterbacks, but you are right. If we are redrafting, he still would be the 5th one taken just because of what he's shown. And it's a real iffy situation. We're going to see how he does when he comes back. I think this break might have been good for him, and I want to see him play out the rest of the season now after watching Mike White play that way, and maybe he takes a few things or two from that film and learns how to do those checkdowns. So if you want to talk about Mack, we can go on to that because I know we talked about Simeon a little bit.
Go ahead and talk about Simeon.
Okay. All right, we can go ahead to that then. So the Saints, for some reason, have this like Brady game plan, which is strange because no one else does. The Saints know how to play him so well.
Yeah.
It's the only games he struggles with.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's been dominant. And even the Bucs defense struggles with Sean Payton and the offense. Sean Payton just has this weird thing about the Bucs that I just can't understand. It's like everyone plays better. Lattimore plays better, locks up Mike Williams, Mike Evans, except for that one catch. I mean, the safeties play well. Demario Davis, like we said, is one of the best defensive players in the league. But they scheme it perfectly, and it's crazy to watch because you see Jameis get hurt, and you're like, oh, there it went. They were playing him well.
Yep.
Then Simeon comes in, and Simeon's balling on them. It's insane. And it's a weird Brady kryptonite thing that I just find fascinating. That I mean, everyone saw it on display. It's just something to look out for. It's kind of crazy to watch.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to this, man. I said it on the other show. Sean Payton's, if not the best coach in the league right now, he's top 2. He's top 3. I mean, Sean Payton is a phenomenal coach, bro. He literally brings in a wide receiver, running back, gadget player and makes him a quarterback. Like it's just in Taysom Hill. And then he goes and does it with Simeon. And he does it with his defense. And it's just, it's incredible what Sean Payton is able to. I hate it so much. The Falcons have to play them next week. But it's absolutely impressive how Sean Payton coaches up this team, bro. He is such a good coach. I mean, he is top of the line coach. And for my money right now, he's the second best coach in the entire National Football League behind Bill Belichick. And some people would even say I'd take him over that. So I completely agree with you on that. I want to move on here to Mack Jones here because it looks like my internet is like really, you keep freezing in it, but I think it's my internet, right?
Yeah, you keep freezing on my side, so
See,
I'm not sure.
Your side keeps freezing to this way, to like my side. So, but I think it's my internet for some reason, man. It's really weird.
I don't know. We'll figure. When I watch it back, I'll figure it out, and hopefully, it isn't too bad on the edit or whatever. If not, we'll cut this last part, and I'll do we can do a little bonus thing on our college show. I'll throw up like a bonus, like 15 minutes, and re-talk about what we're talking about. But
yeah, I think it should be fine though. But I want to get into this Mack Jones thing, bro. Mack Jones 1000% outdueled Justin Herbert on Sunday. He outdueled him. He played so well, bro. And I went back and watched the tape because I'm all the way behind this Mack Jones thing. I was behind it before the draft, and I want to keep following it on this. And what was so, first of all, he's so smooth at going through his progressions and so quick at it. In the goal line, it was the touchdown Jacoby Myers. He quickly saw his first receiver was not open, scanned to the second, scanned to the third, hit Jacoby Myers. It was so quick. It was like he's been a veteran for 10 years. Then he stepped up in the pocket and threw this absolute dime to Nelson Aguilar on a deep ball. And I'm just sitting there watching him, and I'm like, man, if you switch the jerseys, if you switch the nameplates, you would think that Mack Jones is Justin Herbert right now. Like if you just changed it, the way he was playing, and I know he doesn't have the arm like Justin Herbert, but Justin Herbert doesn't have that big cannon of an arm either. Mack Jones was playing much better. He completely outdueled Justin Herbert, and he doesn't have good receivers at all. All right. Yes, he has a good defense and a really good coach. That's it. He has some good tight ends in Hunter Henry and maybe Jonnu Smith. Like, Mack Jones is doing some stuff here that I think we see why a lot of people were saying Mack Jones should go number 3 to the 49ers. Like, and people were getting beliterated. Oh, if Kyle Shanahan takes Mack Jones at number 3, he should lose his job. I'm sitting there thinking, why? All this guy did was the same thing with Deshaun Watson, bro. I know 2 different styles, but it was the same thing. This guy in college goes and beats every single team, and they say, no, he's not accurate enough. He can't go in the top 5. Mack Jones said, oh, because he's not athletic enough, he can't go in the top 5 or top 10. Him falling to number 15 is a travesty. And it's going to once again make us hate Patriots and Patriots fans because they're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to make the playoffs this year. I fully believe that with Mack Jones.
So, first off, I think it actually was my internet. I was just checking it. It might just be mine. So,
really?
Yeah, I think we might be good, though. I'll give it a shot. I know it's good now, but we'll see.
Yeah, you look good. You look fine now.
But on the Mack Jones talk, so you were I know, strange. Usually yours, right? And it's all of a sudden mine tonight.
It's just so funny. It's real quick, dude. It's so funny when you go. You were fully black, and all I hear is "uh-oh." So like I can't see you, but I just hear like, "Oh shit, he knows something's wrong."
Yeah, because you were like frozen on my side, so I was like, "Is it you? Is it me?" But no, so anyway, I think you were like way higher on Mack Jones than I am. If we're redrafting, I'm taking him 3. I'm still taking
Fields.
Trevor. I'm still taking Trevor and Fields.
Yeah,
because I'm an upside guy.
That's fine. Like I'm not going to critique you for taking Fields over him.
I think if we high-low it, I think Mac Jones' ceiling, I mean, his absolute ceiling's Matt Ryan and his floor is Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's much better than Kirk Cousins now. But I mean, in the future, I'm just saying, I think he has to play pretty close to perfect every game, which he's been doing. It's not like he's throwing deep down the field or anything. They're not asking him to do that, which I understand. That's not the offense. He's running the offense effectively, which is all you can ask him to do, and that's what he should be graded on. It's just his upside's just not high enough for me, and I understand where you're coming from with that because he did outduel Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert going against that Patriots defense, man, Belichick is so good against these first and second year quarterbacks.
It's incredible.
It's insane. And he switches looks all the time. Like, you never know what's coming. So it's definitely an advantage to have Belichick be your coach because you don't have to play Belichick. So that's a big time thing. So Mac is actually just good at taking what the defense gives him. That's what makes him so good.
Yeah.
Even though the receivers aren't great, even though it's just a tight end group, if he needs to drop back, read the defense, run the ball, that's what he does. If he needs to drop back, read the defense, fake the handoff, hit a slant, that's what he does. The ball goes where it needs to go, which is what you have to ask a quarterback to do. And I completely understand the love you're giving him on that. I'd still take the upside guys over him, but I definitely can see the Patriots being a problem now because they're running that same offense they had with Brady. I mean, he's not going to be Brady, don't get me wrong, but they're running that same offense, and you just give him one solid speed guy on the outside that can separate, and that offense is going to be pretty dangerous to go with the Belichick defense, and the Patriots are going to be back to what the Patriots do, making the playoffs every year. They have the Bills to deal with now, but they'll be making the playoffs every year. Well, watch and see.
And that's why I'm putting Mac Jones here because you're right. His ceiling is not going to be what Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence is. It's just not because
it's not going to be Zach or Trey's. You just don't know if they're going to hit it.
Yeah. Well, that's true. But I just the anxiety that Zach and mainly Zach and I think Trey as well is going to give me as a fan. I don't even want that. But they have very, very high upside. The thing is, I'm factoring in the situation that Mac got put in because, and this is going to sound complicated, because he went to Bill Belichick in New England, I am saying that that's lifting his ceiling even higher because everything that you just said is he's going to do that and it's going to look even better because he's doing it perfectly in a Bill Belichick system. And that always gets raised. So that's my whole thing. Like Brady just ran the system perfect. And he would make very, very clutch throws in very, very clutch moments. Now, we don't know if Mac Jones can do that. That's what, let's be honest here. That's what separates Brady from everyone else. Brady is the most clutch quarterback ever. You give him that ball back with 45 seconds, he's going to make it right. You give him that ball back with a minute, he's going to make it right, and he runs it perfectly. He doesn't turn the ball over much, and I just think Mac Jones is going to run the system so perfectly, and I think the system is so much higher in terms of just the way Belichick will get the defense to play that it's going to raise his game, and he's always going to look good. He's always going to look like a good quarterback. He's not going to be an MVP caliber quarterback. He's not going to throw for 50 touchdowns, but he's going to throw very little interceptions. He's going to throw a decent amount of yards, and he's going to get wins. He's going to get wins, especially if they can keep building the wide receivers up. And as long as Bill Belichick stays the coach there and keeps coaching that defense the way he is, he's going to win a lot of football games.
Yeah, I think the situation does need to get taken into account because you're going to see everyone, Mac is just so much better than all the other quarterbacks in the class. I factor that in as well. I mean, what he has to work with is definitely, other than maybe Trey Lance having some of the players that 49ers have, but they're not even going to play Lance right now. They seem to be sticking with Garoppolo. But what Mac has over these other three quarterbacks that we're talking about is insane. Just from a system and defensive standpoint, Mac does not have to play his best game, and they'll still win.
Yeah, from the defense side.
Yeah, where
the
if these
isn't great. I mean, the offense, I could argue the Jags have better weapons than the Patriots. When DJ Chark was out there.
When Chark's out there.
The Patriots' weapons they're gross. I think the I would say I think the Bears, but the Bears don't even know how to use Allen Robinson and these guys. So I don't know. I just like offensively, he really doesn't have anything. But what he does have is a very good offensive line and a very good defense. And that's why I'm saying he's going to look really, really good, but he's also making the throws. Like that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
He is doing it right. He's making the throws. I'm impressed with Mack, man. I'm impressed.
Yeah, he's not throwing any bad throws at all. He hits his target like you said. So he does what the offense asks him to do.
He does.
And McDaniel's calling great games for him as well. That can't go without being said. He's obviously, I mean, like we were comparing, Fields and Lawrence have. I mean, do we believe in Nagy at this point? I mean,
no. Did you see what they did without Nagy yesterday?
Yeah, a lot better. And then, I mean, Bevel is so hit and miss with Lawrence. It's just it's a coaching mismatch. So it's very good. It's very good to see Mack play the way he's playing, and I'm curious to see how he does the rest of the year because I feel like the Patriots could be a playoff team this year. I mean, they did just beat the Chargers. That was my one knock on them coming in. If we remember, if we think back to our last show, I was saying, well, they're beating bad teams. They're not beating the good teams they play. They finally did come out and beat the Chargers, which the Chargers have came down a lot too. So I can't wait to monitor how they keep playing the rest of the year.
Yep.
I mean, was that a Belichick defense thing, or are we seeing a little bit of regression from that beginning of the year? So that's something to keep a watch on over these next few weeks that we'll talk about on the show. But I mean, definitely like what Mack Jones did. He outdueled Justin Herbert, who is everyone's crowning achievement for a young quarterback. So, I mean, it was a great game plan. It was a great game for them, and the Patriots are legit again, so we better watch out.
Yeah, no, it will be very fascinating move forward, and I agree. I think that they are 100% now in the hunt. The AFC is just it's stacked. Like the NFC is very top heavy stacked, and then you have like the wild card spots that are very open. The AFC is just the wild. Everyone's like 5-2 or 4-3. Like there's just going to be so many teams fighting for the wild card in the AFC. Anything you want to get on before we're about to hit hour 20 here? So anything else you want to get on before we move out?
Well, I mean, like I said, we'll be back for the college show and everything,
which will be a good one.
Oh yeah, it's going to be big. College football playoff committee comes out tomorrow night. We'll definitely record after that to upload on Thursday. It's going to be a big time show for college football because we got some good matchups coming into the weekend as well. So I can't wait to get on that. Also, if any big trades happen, we'll probably hit that in the beginning of the show. I mean, you hear those people throwing it around. What if Sean Payton and Loomis and them go after Deshaun, try to go all in on it? Kayvon would probably destroy somebody on pod.
I don't think you'll see me here. I mean, I think I'll jump out this window right over here, bro. Like that's not happening.
Because we were talking about how Loomis and them works the cap, so
I wouldn't be surprised.
Don't be shocked. I mean,
it would be identical to what the Rams did. Right?
Because everyone keeps talking about this. Oh, Deshaun might get the 6-game suspension next year. Well, guess what? They won't sign Jameis back, but I don't think they're scared to play Taysom Hill for 6 games. So, like I said, I'd watch out for it.
What if they get Deshaun and win the Super Bowl and then he gets suspended? Whatever. They just won the Super Bowl, right?
And I mean, Peyton just had Trevor Siemian come out and win. So, I mean, like I said, if that happens, the Kayvon's jumping out the window. But we'll definitely cover any big time trades that happen, along with a huge college football slate that we're going to talk about, and the playoff obviously is going to be a big thing. Like I said, this will go up on iTunes and Spotify. It's got to clear their little podcast acceptance or whatever, but I've done all the stuff that I need to do, and as long as it comes back clean, we'll be up there, and I'll be able to give you the links for it next time. And that's basically all I got right there. So what you got going on for the rest of it?
Yeah, no doubt. So well said. It is going to be a fascinating show on Wednesday. We're going to learn what the playoff committee thinks of Cincinnati. We're going to learn what they think of Wake Forest. We're going to learn of how high they have Michigan State. What do they think of Ohio State? What do they think of Oregon? Is Oregon – look, we always hear – am I echoing?
No.
Okay.
Not on my end.
We always hear – Ohio State, and we always hear head-to-head is so important. Head-to-head is so important, this and that. Are they going to give us head-to-head this early and they're going to put Oregon ahead of Ohio State? Or are they not going to do that and then we're going to have to sit here and wait? Is it going to be the end of the season when they maybe jump Oregon? Or do they never have Oregon jump Ohio State? There's going to be so many storylines, bro. And one thing I'm going to leave us on, there is already a trap line out there. UNC is favored by 2 against the undefeated Wake Forest this week. Vegas is telling you right away that Wake Forest is going to lose this week unless favored by 2 against an undefeated Wake Forest team. That is a fascinating line, bro. And that puts a lot of pressure on Wake Forest. So we're going to dive into it all. But this college football, this is actually going to be I'm really, really looking forward to this show. I love the first week of the playoff committee coming out with it. So it'll be good. This was the Money Down Pod. Kayvon Izami alongside my guy, Shawn White. Shawn's getting everything done. We really appreciate him getting everything done with iTunes and all of that. We'll be back again on Wednesday, coming out on Thursday for the college football show. Then we'll have another show coming out on Friday, breaking down the weekend games, and we'll keep it rolling. You can find us on YouTube, Money Down Pod. Find us on Twitter, Money Down Pod. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Give us a comment. Let us know what do you want us to do. We'll shout it. We'll shout you out. We'll shout your name out, your Twitter handle out, whatever. We'll shout you out, and we'll talk about you and your comment on the show. We appreciate you guys. Shawn, it was great hanging with you, my man. And we'll talk to you on Thursday, Wednesday.
All right.
All right, boss.
All right.